Alright, this is section 2.1, quadratic functions, and let's graph some of these by hand. And the things that we're going to be looking for are the axis of symmetry, the vertex. Is it that vertex a max or a min? And then also what are the x-intercepts, if any, and if there aren't, then let's go ahead and find the solutions just to make it more fun. But let's look at this first one and figure out the axis of symmetry and vertex and all that good stuff. Now, one of the first things I want to look at every time I have a quadratic is it factorable? Could I take this thing and factor it? Because if I can, then it's probably easiest just to work straight forward. But one of the things I notice with this one is that it is not factorable. There's no way that I can multiply together a positive 2 and a negative 1 and end up with a positive 2 there in the middle. So with that knowledge, I'm going to change this thing using completing the square to where it's in the other form, the standard form, which is x plus or minus some h value squared plus or minus some k value, to where I have how much is it moving inside and how much is it moving outside, and then it's way easier to solve as well. So let's start with this, and I've got x squared plus 2x and then minus 2, and so I want to know what's going to go in this blank here, and I'm going to figure that out by taking half of this middle number. So take half of this middle number, 2 divided by 2, which is 1, and 1 squared would be 1. And so now I have this x plus 2, x plus 1, which is factorable into x plus 1, x plus 1, minus 2. Now, I've got to, real quickly, I jumped ahead of myself. Before I can do that, if I add 1 here, it's like I'm taking that 1 away from out here. And so now, instead of a plus 1 there, it's like plus 1 minus 1. I got to cancel it out. So there's got to be a minus 1 plus 1, right? Because I can only add 0. So I'm going to do that minus 1 outside the parentheses. So now that becomes x plus 1, x plus 1. And now outside is a minus 3, because I took 1 more away from the negative 2 to get that plus 1 on the inside. And this is obviously x plus 1 squared minus 3. It's in the form that we wanted it to be in, to where it's x plus or minus some h value squared plus or minus some k value. And this completing the square process is really, really helpful to be able to solve this thing, because now I can see that this plus 1 means that it is left 1, and the minus 3 means that it is down 3. And so I'm going to go left 1, and now that is my axis of symmetry, is that x equals negative 1, and then down 3, and I have my vertex here at a negative 1, negative 3, and that vertex is a minimum because this is a positive quadratic, so it's going to open up. And then my x and y, my x-intercepts then, are when 0 is equal to x plus 1 squared minus 3. So add 3 to both sides, and I now have 3 is equal to x plus 1 squared, and then square root both sides, and x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 3. And then minus 1. Can't subtract 1 from the 3, so that minus 1 goes out in front, and I have a negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. And that is my equation there. Well, I know that the square root of 3 is going to be less than 2, but greater than 1, so let's call it 1.7. So if I do a negative 1 minus 1.7, that would be like negative 2.7, which would put me out here. And then a negative 1 plus 1.7 would get me to plus 0.7 right over in here. And I have my two x-intercepts so that I can graph my quadratic equation. And I got a little funky there. There we go. Alright, that is graphing it using this completing the square process. Okay, let's do another one.